Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a place so prosperous, so rich in resources. It was actually known as the Paradise of Nations and the Golden Age of Bengal. That's exactly what we're diving into today, the Bengal Subah. We've got a really fascinating deep dive ahead. We're covering the Bengal Subah basically from 1576 right up to 1757 CE. And just for context, this was the largest subdivision of Mughal India. Later, it became an independent state under its own Nawabs. We're talking a huge area, right? Modern-day Bangladesh, the Indian state of West Bengal, parts of Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha. It's vast.
It really is. And what's so fascinating here is that this period, it really shows this dynamic interplay. You've got power, economy, and then, crucially, the rise of European influence. So our mission today really is to trace this incredible transformation, how it emerged, its peak as this incredibly wealthy hub, and then the events that led to its decline and, well, the shift of power. You'll hear about battles, ambitious rulers, and the subtle ways economic strength can, kind of ironically, attract external forces.
Okay, so the Paradise of Nations. How did it get that reputation? How did Bengal become so prominent? Where does this story really begin?
Well, it actually starts, perhaps unsurprisingly, with conflict. Lots of conflict and shifts in power. The Mughal absorption of Bengal, it kicked off relatively early with Emperor Babur. He defeated the Bengal Sultanate at the Battle of Gagra in 1529, annexed parts of Bengal then. But that was really just the very beginning. It was a long road to full control.
Right, so not just a quick conquest then. Establishing control over such a large, wealthy region must have been a huge challenge.
Oh, absolutely. It was far from straightforward. You had, for example, a major interruption by Sher Shah Suri. He attacked Bengal, set up the Suri dynasty in 1539, and even managed to defeat the Mughal Emperor Humayun, not just once, but twice, Chelsea in 1539, Kanauj in 1540.
Wow.
Yeah, it just shows how, fragile imperial control could be, even for a powerhouse like the Mughals.
So despite those early Mughal gains and the setbacks, the full conquest of Bengal, that actually happened much later.
That's right, yeah. The really decisive moment, or moments I should say, came under Akbar. His army defeated the last independent sultan, Daud Khan Korani, first at the Battle of Tukaroy in 1575, and then conclusively at the Battle of Rajmahal in 1576. That's when Bengal was officially announced as one of the original 12 Subahs.
Okay. Once it was officially a Mughal province, a Subah,
yeah.
Was it smooth sailing from there? Was it immediately, consolidated?
Not really, no. And this is, I think, a really important point about empire building. Conquest is one thing, right? But actual consolidation, especially against these entrenched local powers like the Barobuyans, landlords in Bengal, that takes time, decades even.
Barobuyans, tell me more about them.
Yeah, they were powerful local chiefs, landlords really. The Mughals faced years of pretty fierce resistance from them. It wasn't fully subdued until about 1611, and that was even after their main leader, Isa Khan, died way back in 1599.
So local power structures were really persistent.
Very persistent. It shows you the limits of imperial power sometimes.
Okay, but eventually, Bengal was truly integrated. And didn't the Mughals build a new capital in Dhaka?
They did. From about 1610 onwards, they really built up Dhaka. They even renamed it Jahangir Nagar after Emperor Jahangir. It became a proper imperial metropolis. Fortifications, gardens, tombs, palaces, mosques, the whole works. It served as the Mughal capital for over a century.
A real symbol of their control then.
Exactly. A clear statement of consolidated power.
So during this period, let's say 1576 and 1717, Bengal's governed by these Mughal subadars, imperial governors, often from the imperial family, you said?
Yes, often.
Was there anyone in particular who really made a mark in consolidating Mughal rule there?
Yes. Shasta Khan is a key figure here. He was acting on Emperor Aurangzeb's orders, and he played a really pivotal role in cementing Mughal control, particularly in eastern Bengal. He did this partly by, eliminating Prince Shuja and his family. Shuja was a rival, a potential threat to Aurangzeb's authority. So removing him solidified control.
Right. Consolidating power often involves some pretty ruthless moves.
It certainly did back then.
Okay, so we have Bengal as this powerful, established Mughal Subah, governed by viceroys. But then things start to change. It moves towards independence. What were the catalysts? Internal struggles, external factors?
It's really a mix, but the increasing European presence becomes absolutely critical at this point. Initially, it probably seemed quite advantageous to the Mughals, or at least the local governors, viceroys like Ibrahim Khan II, and later Prince Azim Shan. Azim Shan was an imperial prince himself. They started giving permits to European traders, English, French, Dutch.
Seeing it as a source of revenue, maybe? Prestige?
Probably both, yeah. But this permission, these trading permits, they open the door to something much bigger.
How so?
Well, Azim Khan specifically gave permits for the establishment of major European forts. You get the British East India Company's Fort William in Calcutta, the French East India Company's Fort Orleans in Chandanagar, the Dutch East India Company's fort in Chinsura.
Ah, so not just trading posts, but fortified bases.
Exactly. This wasn't just about warehouses anymore. It was, perhaps unintentionally, laying the groundwork for future conflict and a massive shift in the power dynamic.
And wasn't it during this same period, under Azim Khan, that a really key local figure rose to prominence? Murshid Quali Khan.
Yes, absolutely. A crucial figure. He was Azim Khan's prime minister, his diwan, responsible for revenue and legal affairs. And he was incredibly effective, maybe too effective from Azim Khan's point of view. Khan gained immense control over the imperial finances in Bengal. It got to the point where Emperor Aurangzeb actually transferred Azim Khan away to Bihar, probably to avoid a direct conflict between the prince and his very powerful prime minister.
Wow, so the administrator becomes more powerful than the governor, essentially. Right. A smart operator, Murshid Quali Khan.
Extremely smart, very strategic. And his rise didn't stop there. He became deputy subadar, then full subadar in 1711. He felt secure enough by 1716 to move Bengal's capital from Dhaka, the long-standing Mughal center, to a new city he founded, Murshidabad.
Named after himself.
Named after himself, yes. A clear sign of his ambition and power. And then, in 1717, it's made official. The Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar formally recognizes Khan as the hereditary Nawab. This establishes the Nasiri dynasty.
Hereditary Nawab. So that's basically independence, isn't it?
It's the de facto start of Bengal's independence, yes. They still sort of paid lip service to the emperor, issued coins in his name.
Right, the formalities.
Exactly. But in reality, they were independent monarchs, ruling from Murshidabad over this massive territory, Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa.
So this is the era of the independent Nawabs. What did that mean for Bengal itself, for the people living there? Was this the golden age we talked about earlier?
It really seems to have been, yes. This period under the Nawabs, particularly in the 18th century, saw incredible prosperity. I mean, the Nawabs of Bengal were genuinely among the wealthiest rulers anywhere in the world at that time.
Wow. And their independence meant they could channel that wealth more locally, presumably?
Precisely. Less tribute flowing directly to Delhi, more reinvestment or accumulation within Bengal itself.
So where did all this incredible wealth actually come from? What was Bengal producing?
Oh, it was a huge production center. The Bengal-Bihar-Orissa region was famous for several things. Cotton muslin, first and foremost. World-renowned quality. Silk cloth, too. There was a massive shipbuilding industry.
Shipbuilding. Interesting.
Yeah, significant. Also gunpowder, saltpeter, crucial for military power and sophisticated metalworks. You had factories, workshops flourishing in cities like Murshidabad, Dhaka, Patna, Chittagong, Hooghly, all these ports and urban centers. And the Nawabs. They profited hugely from the global demand for these goods. Bengal was an economic engine.
But as the saying goes, no golden age lasts forever. Did this immense wealth start to cause problems? Attract unwanted attention?
It absolutely did. Wealth makes you a target, doesn't it? The third Nawab, Sarfaraz Khan, he got caught up, or at least distracted, during Nader Shah's invasion of India further north. This created a power vacuum, or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it.
And someone took that opportunity.
Someone did. In 1740, his own deputy governor of Bihar, a man named Alavardi Khan, saw his chance. He defeated and killed Sarfaraz Khan at the Battle of Guriya and seized the throne, launching his own dynasty, the Afshar dynasty.
So an internal coup. But swapping one Nawab for another didn't necessarily solve the external pressures, did it?
Not at all. In fact, Alavardi Khan immediately faced a massive new challenge, the Maratha Empire. The Marathas launched brutal raids into Bengal. 6 major expeditions between 1741 and 1748. It was relentless.
6 expeditions. That must have been devastating.
It was. They conquered large parts of Orissa. And eventually, in 1751, Alavardi Khan was forced into a peace treaty. He had to formally cede large parts of Orissa, basically everything up to the Subarnarekha River.
A significant territorial loss. What about the economic impact? Did the Marathas demand money too?
Oh, yes. A huge amount. They demanded an annual tribute payment, known as the chath. For Bengal and Bihar, this was set at 1.2 million rupees every single year.
1.2 million rupees.
Annually. And on top of that, he had to pay another 3.2 million rupees immediately for arrears, for past dues, basically.
That's a staggering amount of money.
It really is. And this annual payment continued until 1758. It put immense strain on the Nawab's finances, draining away a lot of that Bengal wealth. So you see the internal weaknesses, the external pressures building.
And meanwhile, the European trading companies are still there, right? Getting stronger.
Exactly. By this time, the Europeans, British, French, Danish, Dutch, even the Ostend Company, for a while, they'd become much more influential. And the British East India Company in particular was really starting to challenge the Nawab's authority directly. They could sense the weakening state.
Okay, so this leads us to the last independent Nawab, Siraj-ud-Dowlah. He was Alivardi Khan's successor, right?
Yes, his grandson.
And he inherited this situation, a weakened state, aggressive Europeans. He actually tried to push back against the British initially, didn't he?
He did, quite forcefully. In 1756, he won a pretty decisive victory against them. He attacked and overran their main base during the siege of Calcutta, even briefly kicking them out of Fort William.
So, for a moment, it looked like the Nawab might actually reassert control.
For a brief moment, perhaps. But that victory, well, it turned out to be tragically short-lived.
What happened?
The British response was swift and decisive. They dispatched a strong fleet, crucially led by Robert Clive, and in 1757, at the Battle of Plassey, Clive defeated Siraj-ud-Dowlah.
Plassey, that's the really famous one.
That's the one. It was pivotal. Siraj-ud-Dowlah was betrayed by some of his own key officers, arrested and then killed shortly after.
So betrayal played a role, too.
A major role. And this Battle Plassey, it wasn't just a military victory for the British. It gave them enormous, unprecedented influence over the entire Bengal Subah.
Influence feels like an understatement. But was it basically control at that point? What did the immediate aftermath look like? They put someone else on the throne.
They did. It was a total political shift. Mir Jafar, one of the commanders who betrayed Siraj, was installed as the new Nawab. But he was, for all intents and purposes, a puppet ruler. Nominally in charge, but the British East India Company held the real power.
A puppet Nawab. Did anyone try to resist this?
Yes, Mir Jafar's successor, his son-in-law Mir Qasim, actually did try. He attempted to assert some real independence, even built up his own army trained along European lines.
How'd that go?
Not well for him. His efforts were ultimately crushed by the company. He was deposed, and the British simply reinstalled Mir Jafar in 1763. It showed who was really calling the shots.
Right, so the British grip just kept tightening. Was there a final decisive moment that ended any pretense of Bengali independence?
Yes. The Battle of Buxar in 1764. That was really the final nail in the coffin. At Buxar, it wasn't just Mir Qasim fighting the British. He allied himself with Nawab Shuja-ud-Dowlah of Oud and even the Mughal emperor himself, Shah Alam II.
So a major coalition against the British.
A powerful coalition on paper, yes. But they were decisively defeated by the company's forces. And Buxar, even more than Plassey perhaps, truly paved the way for British expansion not just in Bengal, but across all of India. It dismantled the last real challenge in the region.
So after Buxar, what happened to the Paradise of Nations, to the structure of the Bengal Subah? How complete was this British takeover?
Well, the Nawabs, they'd lost all real independent authority after Plassey in 1757, even if the illusion lingered. Buxar just confirmed it. Then, by 1772, the British Governor-General Warren Hastings made a significant move. He shifted all the key administrative and judicial offices away from the Nawab's capital, Murshidabad.
Moved them where? To Calcutta.
To Calcutta, exactly. Which then became the capital of the new Bengal presidency under the company. And effectively, it became the de facto capital of British India.
So Murshidabad is sidelined, Calcutta rises, British administration takes over completely.
Pretty much. And if you look at the bigger picture, this whole process culminates later on. The British government eventually abolished even the symbolic authority of the Mughal emperor in Delhi after the mutiny of 1857-58. And as for the Nawabs of Bengal, their descendants after 1880 were merely recognized with the title Nawab of Murshidabad. It was essentially just a title, like a peerage with no real power.
Wow, just a title. A stark contrast to the rulers of the Paradise of Nations.
A huge contrast. It shows a complete transfer of power over about a century.
What an incredible journey through time we've taken. From being the largest, wealthiest part of the Mughal Empire to this rich, independent state, the Golden Age. And then seeing that power just systematically dismantled first by internal issues and external raids, then decisively by the British. You've really unpacked the full, complex story of the Bengal Subah, its rise, its peak, and its eventual absorption into the British system.
It's a deep dive that really offers, I think, some profound lessons. You see how geopolitics shifts, how economic ambition plays out, how military strength can completely reshape regions. And it does make you think, doesn't it? How the very things that create wealth and power in one era, like Bengal's incredible trade and production, can become the vulnerabilities that attract external forces in the next.
That is a powerful thought to mull over, isn't it? The foundations of strength becoming weaknesses. So next time you hear about major historical shifts of power, maybe think back to the Bengal Subah. What other seemingly invincible powers throughout history might have been undermined by the very things that initially made them strong? Something to consider. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.